My son died a week ago. I just found out someone has been sleeping with the corpse. The last words I ever heard from him were, "See you later, Mom." I never thought anything could ever be worse than the day I lost my boy William. But I was so utterly wrong. Will had a friend who lived down the street and they were as thick as thieves. Bikes, baseball, video games. Those boys were inseparable. That horrendous evening, the two had gone out to play near the old abandoned barn with a makeshift swing that the kids were fascinated with. It was an attraction for many of the kids in the neighborhood. Little did anyone think it would be lethal, but the rope snapped. Will fell awkwardly, hit his head, and didn't get back up. Even a week later, I couldn't process what happened. Every day it still felt like a nightmare I desperately wanted to wake up from, but I couldn't. My baby boy was gone. I never imagined my life could fall apart anymore until I got that phone call. It was 10 days after he died. The body was already in the coroner's office, ready for the funeral in a few days, or so I thought. I heard my phone ringing and picked it up to be greeted by the coroner's office front desk. I was confused as to why they would be calling. Maybe offering counseling or support, but the funeral was still a few days away, so I wasn't expecting a call. That's when they broke the horrifying news. The body was gone. The ground seemed to drop beneath me as they explained. My sweet boy, already ripped from me once, was now stolen in a way I couldn't even fathom. A rage unlike anything I'd ever felt before surged through me, fierce and scalding, threatening to consume everything in its path. How dare they? How dare they violate my child's rest? How dare they add to our pain? But within my fit of rage, I still couldn't understand. They had cameras all over the place, which they claimed conveniently lost connection when the body was stolen. Something wasn't adding up, and their story made no sense. After doing some of my own research on the office, I saw that I wasn't alone in this. If only I'd looked it up before. But there were multiple cases of bodies from this same coroner's office being stolen. I couldn't allow the person responsible to escape unpunished. I wanted him to suffer more than just go to jail. I wanted to make him suffer personally. So I contacted an old friend, a private investigator named Sam, who looked like he'd seen his share of the world's darkest corners. Over the next few days, he started his work, following the coroner around without being spotted. However, from the first moment Sam started tailing the coroner, it was clear that something was amiss. The man was jittery, frequently checking his rearview mirror as if expecting to be followed. His erratic patterns stood out, but were just oddities, not proof of his wrongdoing. Not proof yet, anyway. That was until the next week. Sam observed him heading in a different direction. It was late in the evening, and he was driving towards the outskirts of town. He took numerous turns, looping back several times as if trying to lose anyone who might be following him. This sparked Sam's interest. He maintained a safe distance, his professional instincts on high alert. Eventually, the coroner arrived at a secluded spot filled with large industrial bins. Sam watched from afar as he unlocked a private container, placed something inside, and quickly left. That evening, Sam called me, his voice laced with the grim promise of a breakthrough. We investigated the bins later that night, but what we found was far worse than anything we had prepared ourselves for. There was nothing. As messed up as it was, I really wished there was something there. Something to prove that he did something with the body. He had to have known we were following him, or he'd gone back and taken whatever he put in there. Something was so effed up about this whole situation, so I made a decision. I told Sam that the next morning, we were going to break into his house and finally gather enough evidence to prove that this horrible coroner is a sick, sadistic human. And if we couldn't find anything, we'd take his punishment into our own hands. If only I'd known what we were going to find next. So the next morning, as the coroner left his home, we moved. It felt surreal driving to his house, knowing we were about to cross a line. We broke in, the house disturbingly ordinary, other than horrific smell. I didn't want to imagine what that smell was. As we rummaged through his stuff, Sam found a hidden compartment. Inside was a note, along with a recording device and a VHS tape. My heart dropped when I saw this. I didn't even want to think about what was on it. Tearing up, I opened the letter, horrified by what I was going to read. I'm not insane, I swear. I'm not demented, but I just got my new sewing machine today. After reading the first line, anger filled my veins. I knew what was going to be coming, but I forced myself to read on. I don't know what it is, but I just really like being around bodies. People complain and complain and complain until they're dead. I've never once heard a corpse complain. Today's corpse came in today and he was beautiful. It was storming outside when they brought him in. I started getting excited the second I saw him. I felt a wave of revulsion, finding it difficult to continue reading. It was storming on the day I brought the body into the coroner's office. This twisted freak had been plotting to take him away all along. I continued reading, my eyes blurred between the tears now streaming down my cheeks. From the front, you couldn't tell. He was perfect, a beautiful creature. But I don't mean it in that way. I'm not sick, I swear. I meant that he must have been beautiful in life because she certainly remained that way in death. His skin was still pink and supple. He looked like he was sleeping. I rested my head on his stomach, my cheek meeting the warmth of his stomach as I leaned in, the soft texture of his skin against mine. It was then, amidst the unnerving silence, a startling revelation dawned upon me. I felt his chest rise and fall ever so slightly, and heard the soft murmur of blood coursing through his veins, a distant, steady heartbeat echoing in the cold, silent morgue. He was still clinging to life. Somehow, he had lived, but was unconscious. I really reconsidered my plan at this point. I knew I should tell someone, but my urges were too strong. I had to bring him home. I just had to. I kept saying to myself that this is wrong. This is someone's beautiful son that deserves to be returned, but I wanted him as my own. I really shouldn't even be writing this, but that's when I decided to take him home with me. Shock washed over me like an icy river, each chilling realization more paralyzing than the last. It was an abhorrent thought, a monstrous revelation that pushed my very sanity to the brink. My precious boy, my son, He was alive, hidden somewhere in this very house by the very man tasked with his care. The tears came unbidden, pouring down my cheeks in hot, salty rivulets, but I read on. I needed to know where he was. When I'd gotten him home, I laid him in bed. Beneath the gash in the back of his neck, I nested a handmade travel pillow. I snapped him picture over and over again as he appeared to rest there. I took them from every angle I could, careful to ensure his wound would not be seen. He looked so comfortable. He was just perfect. I couldn't take reading anymore. I crumpled the letter in my trembling hand and let out a gut-wrenching sob. I can't read anymore, Sam. I managed to choke out, my voice barely above a whisper. The cruel irony of it all was that my William was alive, and I didn't know where. He was somewhere in this accursed house, being held captive by a man whose mind was a breeding ground for malevolence. Driven by an urgent need to find my boy, I pushed myself up from the floor, my tear-streaked face hardened with determination. With Sam by my side, we began the desperate search, combing through each room, our frantic movements stirring up the unsettling silence of the house. With each room we entered, the house seemed to echo back our mounting desperation. The creaking floors and silent walls playing a cruel symphony of dread and anticipation. We had just about checked every inch of the ground floor when a soft, muffled sound from below stilled us in our tracks. A faint yet distinct sound, a door banging.